Hi, my name is Grace Walcott, and I wanted to do a video on being a step-parent and creating a blended family. You can read my article on it at gracewalcott.com. So the first thing that I want to say is when we started out, when my husband moved in with his children and I had my children, the first thing that I became aware of after a few months was what a huge project this was going to be, and that it was something that was going to need ongoing attention and adjustment. And pretty quickly into it, I felt like, I want extra support with this. I want to be good at it. I want to learn more about it. So the first thing that we did was try and find a therapist who had some expertise in blended family. And this was really, I was surprised. I've since talked to several therapists and they say that there is not a tremendous amount of training in this area at a lot of psychology degrees at schools. And I found that some of the therapists had very dated kind of negative thinking. They use terms like broken family versus intact family. So pretty quickly we decided, we don't want to come from a pathology model. We don't want to come from dated research. So I found a blended family coach who turned out to be really wonderful. And in the first 10 minutes of working with this woman, we realized a couple of things which were kind of basic principles to creating a blended family. The first thing was our parenting styles were really different. We were both coming from the culture of the other family that we had been in, and we were blending. And one of the first things that became really clear was that we got to have different parenting styles, and that we had to respect those differences. And the one place that we got to intervene was if our differences sort of intruded boundary-wise on the other person. So if my husband's parenting style was to have these raucous, loud, play days, that was fine unless it was so loud that I couldn't work in the space or be in the space comfortably, and we would work things out. The other thing that we realized was that our coach said this straight out, and it was a huge relief, was that we get to, you're not going to feel exactly the same way about your biological children as you do about your stepchildren. And especially in the beginning, when really what you're doing is discovering what role you're going to play. And this is really different. If you're meeting your stepchildren and they're teenagers, you may play more of a supportive adult role. And if you're meeting your stepchildren and they're very young, you may be put into a role where you're really going to be doing a lot of parenting. But the big thing is that you have to discover what is appropriate. And the other really interesting thing is that it's kind of different for each kid. And you have to respect that and kind of feel it out. One of the things that I also want to talk about that I wrote about in my article that I don't see getting talked about a lot is one of the gifts of step-parenting. One of the things that is really fascinating about being a step-parent is that because you don't have the genetic ties, and because you're not projecting yourself onto your kid, your step-kid, you sometimes see things that the biological parent is blind to, or it may be too hard for them to look at or to confront. And you can gently, and it's really important to be kind and to be gentle and have your intention be to help the kid and your blended family in general. But you can give information, like for example, I had a friend, she got married, her new husband said to her, like, your kids have terrible table manners. And it was actually something that we had all kind of noticed and not really brought up, and yet he was in a position where it was really affecting him. And when he talked to my friend about it, and they started gently kind of changing things and setting new parameters, it was a good thing. They are more pleasant to be around at social occasions. And this can be in bigger things than table manners. It can be in developmental landmarks that maybe are being missed and the biological parent is too afraid to look at it. In fact, I just had a situation with one of my biological kids where I was so nervous about what was happening for them, and I was projecting all of my childhood onto them, and my husband was able to say, you know, it's okay, calm down. You know, I'm looking at our daughter. We now think of our kids as our kids altogether. I can see that she's great. Look at her. She's strong. She's doing fine. And it was tremendously reassuring. And, you know, this was after many years of blending as a family. And I think when I first started reading up on blended family, there was a statistic that it takes 12 years to actually blend a family. And I do think it's important to think in terms of years as opposed to even you know, months. Although I think that there are ways that things can, there can be gifts, there can be ways that things work with your stepkids right away, and that it's important to really build on those connections and whatever is working. Because biological parents, they have a huge amount of connection with their kids, even if you're talking about kids that are just a few years old. And it's important to really start building in the areas that are working, and then maybe deal with issues like discipline. I don't think it's good to come in as a step parent and be the person who enforces the rule, because I mean, not that you can't set limits, but you've got to really focus on the positives and where you have connections and grow there. And those are my thoughts for today. You can email me at my website, gracewalcott.com, gracewalcott.com, and I hope this is useful for you.